no matter how strong you are going to be affected by this.
Hello and welcome to my channel, System of Control. I've noticed, as I'm sure you have, that our world is kind of crazy right now. I think that nobody can disagree with that. And that isn't why I did this channel, but as I did the research into this subject, it turned out that a lot of our culture, I would say definitely the elite culture, is ruled by this doctrine and therefore this individual. And this individual has a mystique about him. He is being called all kinds of things, a counterculture revolutionary and all these things, but we really don't talk about him. I'm going to introduce Alister Crowley. Alister Crowley is very mysterious as a person, and yet there's a lot written by him, about him and by him. And that's kind of how this channel started. Was I read a book, The Prophet of Evil, Alister Crowley and the 9/11 New World Order. Amazing book. I recommend it. William Ramsey is the author. You guys may know him. He is stellar. He is probably the reason I even have a concept of this subject, of this person, of this doctrine. In about 2015, I'll just talk briefly about how it started. In 2015, I listened to William Ramsey, and he talked about the Memphis Three. And I don't know if you guys know about the Memphis Three. They clearly murdered those boys in down by Nashville, I think, Memphis, West Memphis 3. And but like 20 years later, they got off, and they had all of this. They were exonerated. Well, they weren't exonerated. They were released on a stipulation that they would agree to plead guilty and have time served, kind of like. And they had a lot of like celebrity support. They had Johnny Depp and Eddie Vedder and all this. I'm like, I don't know, that's weird to me. I mean, if you ever look at the evidence, I know it's in dispute and I don't care. If you look at the evidence, it's clear that, I mean, he admitted as much. Damien Eccles did. And he lives in Salem now. So he's a practicing, these rituals that he did with these 8-year-old boys, very specific rituals were done on these children. And he talked about Alister Crowley, he was into Alister Crowley. And so that piqued my interest a little bit. I'd heard of him, and I grew up in the 80s, and we had like all the metal bands and stuff, and they had like the pentagrams on everything. And I remember I was, that was kind of my peer group. And so I remember I was 13 years old, and Motley Crue, all of them had like pentagrams everywhere. And all of it, it was like Iron Maiden 666. And this is not downing on music. I'm talking specifically about how an impact of the sigil or the pentagram, the symbol, I think that we didn't know what it meant. We just identified with the band, but certainly the people at the top knew what it meant. And I actually kind of think that in doing this research on Crowley and his doctrine and the use of symbols, and that's a symbol that I was aware of. Most symbols that they use go underneath our awareness because they have honed a science basically to indoctrinate us. And have us living in the actual middle of the ritual that they're performing, and like keeping us busy with all of these things that we're doing, everything, me culture, like, all that. And we're just spinning in circles. We're actually, what we are is we are the Ouroboros, and that is the symbol, and it is like the serpent eating himself, so it's constant regrowth and death and regrowth, just in a holding pattern. And you'll recognize that too, because that's the buffering signal on the computer. And that is basically, we are giving ourselves over by permission to be in a holding pattern and be given direction. They know that they don't have to give us direct orders, because we would balk against that. So they just give us a few choices that they have selected, and everybody stays in the ritual. And when people are talking about kind of waking up from a spell right now, I believe that's exactly what we're doing. I believe we're like actually poking our head out of it, because awareness, that's the thing too. It's like, yeah, it's this big bad system that has been it's been in practice, since the beginning, since, the fall. And it's, we are within the containment field of this ritual. And if we step out, like we are stepping out right now, we see that there's like wreckage. Our culture is in complete wreckage, and it's because we have been in this. And I guess my mission is, because after researching this material, I mean, it's dark. It's dark material. Like, Crowley was a dark guy. And he, I think that we see the disciples of this, and the elite, with just the exploitation of us, and that means in all sense, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. I mean, we're all exploited, but the exploitation of the innocent is something that is very, very ingrained in this doctrine. And it's almost a requirement, which like makes it like even sicker and more diabolical. And I think that if we understand where this came from, where this doctrine of doest thou wilt is the whole of the law, when it's just about you, what that's done to our society, I think we should see where it came from. And I think we should see the depths that these people are willing to go, that they will go, but also the exploitation of those in the system. I mean, it's really easy to look at people that are evil, and there are evil people, there are evil masters, at work. And, and then what I always say is, you think that you're practicing alchemy in your own life. If I will tell you from this, and this is absolutely, challenge me on this, because this is all Crowley. It will be verbatim. It'll be Crowley verbatim. And, anybody is welcome to dispute, but you're disputing the man himself if you do. So I just want you to relax. And if you think you're practicing alchemy in your life, I hear like, oh, manifestation and like this alchemy and solvate quigula, solvate quigula, which is the alchemy pattern that we're in, actually. And solve means to dissolve. But the Latin word actually means to unknit. And what they want to do, what they want to unknit is your will. Because do as thou wilt, right? So the will is a precious commodity to them, because it can either rise up and destroy, rise up and challenge, or it can be contained into an individual holding pattern and keep them chasing around, right? Keep humanity just chasing around and not paying attention to what's going on. And I think that's an interesting word, is the unknitting. Because in the Bible it says that God knit you in your mother's womb. He knit you. And like, so those are the two schools of thought too. I go off on tangents, but really what is at the base of this is the will. And that is the commodity that they're after. And it's your most precious commodity. And how you view your will is very, very important. Because if you view your will from the purpose that they tell you that it is, it's the engine. It's the engine for what you want. It's the engine for your desires. It's like it hurls you forth into whatever, right? It hurls you forth to a buffering pattern or a Boris. And it drives you in this direction. You're like, what is the purpose of life? You know, what am I supposed to do? Just me, right? But if you look at it from the perspective of the creation, the created will, it's completely different. You would view yourself completely different. Because if you view yourself as created, then you have a purpose. Yes, but you have a purpose in the community too. Like, we all have a purpose. You know, if you want to call it an engine, sure, whatever. But really what it is, it's like a beautiful knitting, a unique knitting of an individual. And it's your most precious commodity. They know it. They want it. Why else would they want it? But to corrupt and destroy. That's what they want to do. They want to corrupt and destroy. And the innocence of the will, the unknitting. I mean, that to me is just, I just think in Latin is so much beautiful. I just think that just says it perfectly. Because that's what it is. They want to, another word is the unmooring. And I think about that's like, just like the disconnection, right? And once they have you in this disconnection pattern, right? Remember, this is all happening in here. This is all happening within the holding pattern. Once they have you disconnected, you are given few choices. You know, where are you going to go to college, and or, you know, buy a house, or, you know what I mean? These things, you. And you are not happy. People are not happy. And I know that's a simplification, but I think that I can say this truly, that you might be happy because happy is a temporal state, but you will never have peace in that state, just by the sheer, the definition of this process, which, like it or not, it is happening to you. They have it down because they have been observing from the beginning, right? They have it down. They have humanity down. And with the advent of technology, you know, that of course has magnified everything, because we're giving permission on a regular basis, and we discombobulate ourselves, you know? But they've been at work for thousands of years, and I have found examples throughout history of how they have moved the narrative, and it might have done it slower and more slowly, sorry, but they were at work then too. I guess that this video is going to be really long, but I do want to read to you Alister Crowley and his, I'll just read it to you. Okay, so the Book of the Law is the book that Crowley brought to the whatever. Ooh, yeah. I'm going to read to you where the phrase do as thou wilt is the whole law comes from. These are Crowley's words, and this is Crowley's account of how he got the Book of the Law. And the Book of the Law, I would say, it's a foundation piece to Thelema, which we will learn that doctrine means the will. So this is about this is about the will. So, but I'm going to read to you from Crowley's book. This is Crowley's words. Like I said, these are Crowley's words, but I think it's enlightening. Crowley and Rose traveled to Cairo early in 1994. Crowley later described the sequence in his confessions and commentaries. Crowley writes, on March 16th, 1904, Rose began to behave in a strange manner. She repeatedly said to me, "They are waiting for you." Crowley initially dismissed her remarks. He records questioning her directly. I asked her, "Who are waiting for me?" And she answered, "Horace." Crowley considered Rose inexperienced in occult matters and was surprised she used that name. He later wrote, she could not have known anything about the subject. She was a perfectly ordinary woman without any interest in mystical matters. Crowley attempted to test Rose's claim by taking her to the Bulak Museum in Cairo. Crowley recounts, I resolved to test her. I took her to the museum and asked her to point out Horace. According to Crowley's account, Rose led him directly to the stele 666, a funerary tablet of the priest Hakunatsu. Crowley writes, she led me straight to the stele number 666. The artifact later became central to the Thelemic symbolism. Crowley writes, this was the stele of revealing. Crowley claims that on and about April 8th, 9th, and 10th, 1904, he described a voice in his commentary. The voice of Iowas came apparently from over my left shoulder. It was neither loud nor soft, but distinct and clear. He also described its characters. The voice was of a deep timbre, musical and expressive. You want anybody else that's was musical and expressive? Crowley states that it seemed to possess much authority. Crowley says the dictation occurred each day, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Crowley, for 1 hour each day, the voice dictated to me. The most famous quote line, the book appears chapter 1, do as thou wilt, is the whole of the law. He interpreted these statements as the foundation of Thelema, the spiritual philosophy that he developed afterwards. So this is a direct dictation from being outside of our knowledge, I would say outside of our awareness, and it made itself aware through rituals. To talk to these beings, they require blood. Of course they do. Innocent blood. They require all sorts of things to come in contact with. So, Crowley's known to have gone through the rigors of many rituals and had dictations to given to him through these, the rigors of the ritual. I think that this is a very important piece to it. I think it's self-evident why it is. This is a doctrine, a technology, a system for the hierarchy of the will, for basically a caste system on how to control the will, and then to do in turn even the small parts, like even Crowley, even though he thinks, he was so special in this time, he too died. Everybody is just a cog in the machine for this system of death, disruption, chaos, evil, disorder. And he is very clear in this doctrine how he feels about the masses. Because right after do as thou wilt, in the book of the law, the next verse down, the slaves shall serve. And I have a news flash for anybody who is, we were talking about alchemy earlier and how you're manifesting or you're doing alchemy because, whatever, in the Ouroboros, in the holding pattern. If you can't knock on Buckingham Palace's door and get in, you're not an elite in this system. You are a slave in this system. And that's another reason why I think it's so important for this information to get out there, because there is no reckoning, there is no negotiating with this system. This system, in my opinion, in my estimation, and I by no means ever will claim that I am a Crowley scholar. I just know what I've read, and I have done I think a considerable amount of research on how Crowley conducted himself in his life, how he treated the women in his life, Scarlet women. Newsflash, he treated them poorly. And I will do an episode on the Scarlet women, and how he treated his disciples, and what his disciples were required, what was required of a disciple of Crowley's. It can give you a little bit of a taste of what these people that are in the system, they are still just in their little slavery too. But they are serving a greater evil that has no care for them. And so I guess what I do think, and this is true, and this is what I found, and I do think this is important to state this, is if you don't believe that you're a created being and you are in that system, I just want you to know that you're a slave. And there is no bigger, better, whatever. There isn't. And right now, it's very important that you pop your head out of it and find out what purpose you serve in the outside system, in the system that is designed to work in harmony with all things. God says, when at all possible, live peaceably among each other. So that's the doctrine of that. God is the doctrine of order. This is the doctrine of chaos. And you can never win in the doctrine of chaos. And here's a little tidbit too, that when Crowley did meet his end finally, people say that he was the color green. He was the color green a lot. And his tongue was swollen all the time, probably from, there's certain parasites that you get when you partake in things you're not supposed to partake of, things that are absolutely contrary to your designed will. You do those things, you shame yourself, to achieve whatever. The system isn't for you. The system is against you. And the way that we do any kind of change is people come out of that do as thou wilt thing and find your real purpose, your created purpose within yourself and within the community. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of need in our communities. And there are a lot of people that need help. And there are a lot of people that are they're thinkers, and they could, they're taking their time to think about, how am I going to build this .com, and like, or like, what, I'm going to work really hard on Wall Street, or I'm going to whatever. I don't know what it is. But, and it could even be like, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to be the best mom. And that's all good stuff. But you also have a place outside. And instead of using those, like the gifts that you've been given, to gratify just yourself, you can build in a community and feel like real purpose. Because we need to take care of each other. That is my main thing that I want to say above all else. Is the reason why I'm presenting this information is because I want us to wake up. There is no working within the system. There is only awareness and purpose outside the system. Above the system, on the side of it, I don't care. But that, you have to understand too, though, that is not, what you are required to sacrifice something, to be part of that system. You might be required to give up some comfort, because you need to speak out. You might have to give some comfort because you're like, okay, wait a minute, I've accumulated all this. And it's like, but what's it for? What's it for? We are in need of each other. And this doctrine is poison. And it has poisoned generations well before Crowley. It's poisoned generations. But remember, awareness pops you out. And then you might have to give up some comfort, But like, come on. It's like comfort for peace. Awareness for peace. And they keep you in it. It's like a cauldron, really. It's all happening in here like a hermetic dome, on all the Capitol buildings. The hermetic dome means all the action is happening. It's all, the magic is contained within it. And, your engine for good means a million, billion times more. I'm talking about gratifying than you doing what you think you're doing, what you want to do, but you're only working within certain given choices. So how do you know? How do you know till you pop your head up and say, wait a minute, like, whoa, that we are in trouble. We're in trouble, man. We are. And I don't think that it's hopeless. I would never say that. Never on this earth will I ever say that. Because if there's awareness, which there is, then that's the breaking of the spell. And I think it's kind of like, when you are, if you've ever gone through any kind of withdrawal, it doesn't have to be from anything hard, it can be just like coffee or whatever. You feel weird. You feel like, whatever. You know how you feel. It's a certain discomfort. And awareness does bring discomfort, but you gotta, just like if you're coming off of anything, you got to push through. You got to push through that, because once you're like, okay, yeah, this is happening. This is really happening around me. There is really a need around me. Maybe you've shut yourself off to that, Maybe you're just like, yeah, whatever, freaking crackheads, or, yeah, whatever, nobody gets their SNAP benefits, so it's for them, or maybe you're not even like that. Maybe you are someone who, sees those things and you're troubled by them, but you don't know what to do. I think that we're starting to build an awareness, and I actually think we will know what we're supposed to do. Because if we're connected to our created will, then we are connected to the Creator, and He's got the download. And you have to sacrifice something else. You have to sacrifice your pride. You have to get rid of it. That's the will. Like, you need to make it about what your created purpose is about. Your created purpose. That's where we will find peace, and that's where we will find answers. We cannot look. That's another thing they do. They keep us in this holding pattern and make us think that we can only look to them to solve these problems. They're never going to do that. I went through that. Unless you're knocking on Buckingham Palace's window and they're letting you in, you are not part of this system. When Crowley talks about the herd and how the mongrels and all that, I mean, those are the things he says. He's a rich kid. I mean, he talks about, he loves it. He loves it. And he died a pauper, of course, because when you just live for yourself, even though he was really, really rich and he was given a great inheritance, he ran through it through his will. And then he ran through everybody else's too, because somebody who's like chaos freaking, you know these people. I mean, that, like, you would say definitely Crowley's a malignant narcissist. And I know narcissists use so much and it's overused, but I think we all know one, and they're like human wrecking balls and just burn through people, treat people like, because why would you care about anybody else's will? Their will is for their desire. They're using us as resources for their desire to move forward in their direction, because we're looking to them. We cannot look to them. We cannot look to them. We need to go back to where we go into communities and we look to each other. We look to each other. And I guess that's why I'm doing this channel. And I know it's really long, but the next one I'm going to do is the Scarlet Women. I'm going to do his definition of the will. We're also going to do in culture how it is, how Thelema has run through the culture, not just present but in the past. And it's going to be a nice ride. So thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time.
No matter how strong you are going to be affected by it.